Mr. Jeff Conant will be our defense, will represent the defense. And Jeff is an ecological justice advocate and author, and currently with Friends of the Earth. So,
I just want to say one thing, because Jeff mentioned this to me earlier. He wanted to be very clear that he is playing a role today.
And it is a very important role, because Jeff will be presenting the defense and the positions that Chevron and others have been taking. So it's a very important element to our tribunal today.
Honorable judges, esteemed witnesses, ladies and gentlemen of the public, speaking on behalf of my client, the fossil fuel industry, the energy economy, let me begin by stating the obvious. If it were not for my client, none of you would be here today. I think you know what I mean, and I would rest my case there, but it seems that in convening this charade today, you have failed to understand a very basic fact: that the energy economy is the very foundation of every advance that we as a civilization have known for the past 150 years. Despite this fundamental fact, there are those among you who insist that somehow my client has done wrong. You are sorely mistaken. Let me be clear. We are here to play ball, and if you want to play ball, your local Chevron refinery is as good a place as any to begin the game. As the most profitable corporation in the state of California, as a source of employment for thousands of people locally and tens of thousands around the world, as a provider of the very fuels that keep California working, that keep the world working, Chevron is and has always been a model corporate citizen. But I am not here to speak solely for Chevron. I speak for the industry and for the energy economy writ large. And frankly, we find your claims on behalf of community rights absurd. Your notion of the so-called rights of so-called Mother Earth is frankly laughable. But at the risk of validating your childish notions, I present my client's defense. If my client were not within its rights as corporate citizens, would the entire architecture of global trade be at our disposal? This year alone, your Chevron refinery has imported crude oil from Canada, from Saudi Arabia, from Russia, from Turkey, from Libya, from Algeria, from Kuwait, from Iraq, from Ecuador, from Colombia. The list goes on. Who are you putting on trial here? If my client were not within its rights as a corporate citizen, would the governments of these nations be so favorably disposed toward us as to put their ports, their highways, their militaries, indeed their entire legal and economic systems at our disposal? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think so. Now, doing away with the spurious notion that nature somehow has rights, a notion that is nowhere recognized in law except, and I think you'll agree with me, in a few impoverished communist banana republics which you know as well as I have failed to provide even the most basic needs to their citizens. Doing away with this notion, we are not above admitting that there have been accidents. Yes, mistakes have been made, but in every case, we have made good. When Chevron's facility in Richmond regrettably allowed some effluent into the bay 20 years ago, we paid the fines. All told, we have paid millions of dollars in fines to restore San Francisco Bay. Which of you have paid millions of dollars to restore San Francisco Bay? If my client were not within its rights as a corporate citizen, we could say the system failed. But the system did not fail. The system worked. When your Chevron refinery suffered the regrettable fire in 2012, we paid the fines. Indeed, that same year, Chevron earned over $26 billion, its highest profits ever. If my client were not within its rights, would our profits be so outstanding? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think so. What have we done with these profits? We have built schools, we have built clinics, we have built water treatment facilities, we have built parks, we have built hospitals. We sponsor sports teams. Does Mother Earth sponsor sports teams? Honorable judges, it should be clear, the system works. You may say that Chevron is the largest point source emitter of greenhouse gases in California. To that we reply, Chevron has been at the forefront of developing your state's groundbreaking climate policy. Chevron has been at the forefront of developing your state's pioneering cap-and-trade program, a policy that allows us to address your concerns about global warming while continuing to grow the economy. If my client were not within its rights, would the state of California, the 8th largest economy in the world, be seeking our expertise in climate policy? Think about it. This year, 2014, the American fossil fuel industry has extracted more fuel than ever before in history, through deepwater drilling, through hydrofracturing, through tar sands mining. We have a saying in the energy industry, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let me remind you, it was not so long ago when you in this room were talking about peak oil, the notion that somehow our fossil fuel reserves were running out. You were wrong. We have overcome this problem. Now, you are trying to come up with more silly notions, whether it is that some portion of our fossil fuel reserves constitute unburnable carbon, or the laughable idea that polar bears have rights, that slugs and bugs and swamp muck has rights. Come on, people, wake up. When we have our day in court, and believe me, we will show that the notion of leaving the oil in the soil, as you so poetically insist we must do, could in itself be the greatest crime against human development in the history of mankind. You are making a huge mistake. In closing, let me remind you, if it were not for my client, none of you would be here today. You need our energy, you need our products, and you need us. Whether it is the food on your tables, the heat in your homes, or the fuel in your cars, you cannot live without us. Your Honors, I rest my case.